Daf Mem Ted Amud 42 lines down. Who got the Ashim Shmei. Continue talking the concept of backing out on a deal. So the guy one time went to pay money, prepay for some sesame seeds. Before he got it though, the price went up. The seller tried to back out and tell him, I don't have any sesame left. Take back your cash. But he didn't take it back. Then it was stolen. After the committed He came to Rabba, he said to the buyer, since he told you to take back your money, you didn't take it back. He's not only not a paid watchman, he's even an unpaid, not even an unpaid watchman. He didn't want your money at all. No reason to. He told you to take it back. But he told him back, but then he's going to get cursed from backing out on the deal. He said, true, if he backed out on the deal, but that doesn't mean he's for the money. Okay, Papi, now we're going to find out that this story really did not happen like that. And told me, I heard from a certain rabbi, Rav Tevut Shimon. His name was Rav Tevut. He was so honest that if everybody gave him all the gold in the world, he would not take back from his word. Because the story with Sesame happened with me, but not the way you think it did. It was Friday right before Shabbat. Now sitting at home, that guy came to my door. He asked me, do you have sesame for sale? Amrile, lo. I told him no. Let this money that I have to pay for the sesame that you don't have, watch it for me because it's almost Shabbat and I can't carry it back. I told him back, my house is in front of you, which is a nice way of saying, put it here at your own risk, I'm not taking care of it. He left it there and it got stolen. I told him, since he said my house is in front of you, Yani, at your own risk, he's not responsible. And I told the rabbi, but we heard that the story went down that they told him, Rava, that he backed out on a deal, and therefore he should get cursed because of backing on a deal. So maybe it sounded like it was a story about the sale that was going backing out of. And I told me, no, it never happened. It was nothing to do with that. Okay. Rabbi Shimon, remember, whoever has the money in possession has the upper hand. Daniel Berta says, Rabbi Shimon says, when can the seller back out? When he has the money and the merchandise in his possession. But the money is in the seller's property. And the merchandise already went to the buyer. He can't retract because the money is already in his possession. Now the Gemara says, Biado, what do you mean? It's not in the buyer's possession, the money is in the seller's possession. What are you talking about? So rather, since the meaning the seller can't buy because the value of his money is in his hands, because the buyer already has the merchandise. Of course, once the guy takes the merchandise, that's literally what a sale is. You can't back out. The case is where the buyer's attic was rented to the seller. And therefore, why do we say that a person acquires something only when he takes the merchandise? Is because we said because we said it many times already. Because we don't want it to be that the guy pays for something, acquires it with the money, and then the seller says, sorry, your stuff burnt in my property. But over here, it won't apply because it shouldn't apply because it already is in the possession of the buyer. And therefore, if a fire breaks out, the buyer himself will take care of it. Therefore, there's no reason and no need for the Hachamim's gizera of Meshicha to make the seller protect the merchandise. There's a certain guy who paid money for wine. Before he took possession of it, he heard that the office of Parzak, the ruler, was trying to grab the wine. Yani his wine that he was buying was going to get stolen. Tells the seller, give me back my money, I'm going to refund. I don't want the wine anymore. He told him, the same way Hakamim made Meshicha for the seller, meaning the seller can back out to the buyer take possession. So too, they also did Meshicha. The buyer can also retract until they take possession. Therefore, he can take a refund. We mentioned Ona'ah earlier, for fraud, any type of fraud over a sixth we mentioned. of 6%, it's considered fraud, and we said that the sale is null and void, but now there's gonna be all different types of frauds and all different types of null and voids. So fraud is a discrepancy of 4 silver out of 24, which is shtut lemekah, which is a 6 of the purchase. We'll explain what that means soon. But so far, 4 out of 24 is 1/6. That makes sense. Ad matay mutar lahzir, and because there's a fraud, how long does he have to take? How much time does he have to demand the refund? Ad enough time for it to pass to him to show it to another guy or to a relative for an assessment. So Horab Rabbi Tarfon the Blue, Rabbi Tarfon ruled in Lod, fraud is 8 out of 24, which is shlish leka, which is a third of the purchase. So meaning a person can, until now we said he can only upcharge a sixth, and now he can upcharge a third, which is almost double, I believe. It's around, instead of 16%, it's 33%. So obviously, all the merchants of Lod rejoiced that they could overcharge people more. Rabbi said, hold up. They have the entire day to back out of the sale if they find out they've been scammed. Let Rabbi Tarfon leave us in our own place. Let's follow Hakamim instead. They don't want his Hidush anymore. Okay. Itmar, Rabbi Marav says, when we said it's a 6, it means of the item, right? The amount paid over the market value of the item. Shave shita b'hamsha. If something's worth $6 and it was sold for 5, which means the seller was underpaid. Shave shita b'shiva, or if it was worth 6 and he sold it for 7, and the buyer overpaid, so the seller was underpaid, and now the buyer overpaid. First and second case, everybody agrees according to the value of the item that was purchased. But ona ahaven is considered fraud, and it's able to be, the guy is able to ask for a refund, not necessarily to null and void the entire sale, but he can ask for the difference back. What's the machloket? Is shaveh hamsha b'shita. They disagree where it's worth $5 and it was sold for 6. Which means the buyer paid 20% more than the value of the item. Or whether it was worth 7 and he sold it for 6. So the seller was underpaid by a seventh. According to the cash, both of those considered fraud. But according to Rav holds according to the item, not according to the cash. Something that's worth 5 is sold for 6. That's considered a null and void. But if it was worth 7 and sold for 6, that's like mechila. It's not considered fraud. He forgave it. Shmuel says no. When do you say that it's a mechila? He's waiving the extra or under. Or when do we say that it got back to, or when do we say the whole thing's null and void? Whenever there's no 1/6 from either side, meaning that it's not a 6 of the value of the item, or it's not a 6 of the money paid, not the cash, not the value. But once it's a 6 from either the value or the paid, it's considered fraud. So Tanan, Mishnah says, fraud is 4 silver coins out of 24 silver coins, which is which is the 6 of the purchase. My love is abin shaveh esrin ve'esrin ba'arba. Sounds like that it's, you sold something 20 for, you sold something worth 20 for 24, so you added 4, which means it's an overpayment of 4 is a fifth of the value, but a sixth of the cash. Right, big difference. So it's like this is like some very deep, not deep per se, but it's in financial world, you could go according to the value of the sale or the value of the item. Therefore, we could prove from here, but like Shmuel, that it also applies, the fraud applies even to the 6 of the cash. So the Gemara says no. Not necessarily. Maybe this man is talking about a case where he sold something worth 24 for 20 and underpaid by 4, which is a 6 of the value. The Gemara says, who was defrauded? The seller. He was underpaid 4. But in the second part of the Mishnah says, how long give a return? Enough time for him to show the merchant or a relative. Nachman said of that, that only applies to the lokeach. But the seller who's underpaid can always back out. So it sounds like the first case must not be talking about the seller, but rather the buyer. Okay, rather we're talking about a case where he sold something worth 24 for 28. He overpaid 4, which is a sixth of the value of the item. So no proof for Shemuel because he held cash. Tan, the case of blood, Rabbi Tefan od where he said it's 8 out of 24, which is a third. My lab is being sounds like a case, even in a case where he sold something 16 for 24. Overpaid 8, which is half of the item, right? From 16 to 24 is half, 50% increase, but technically it's a third of the price. Therefore, we see the Mishnah that even a third of the money is paid. Where it says, "Let Zavin Shaveh Esrim ve'arba'a b'shitzar." You sold something 24 for 16. It was underpaid by 8, which is a third of the value. So now the same exact question: who got defrauded? The seller. But the second case, Mishnah Amar lehem kol hayom mutar lachzor v'amar chanan lo shne'od lokeach aval mocher lo lama chozer. Next part of the Mishnah, so the Mishnah was the second case. The Mishnah talking about the seller, but it sounds like the first case is talking about the buyer, so that can't be the case. Rather, it's not a case where he sold something for 24 for 32. The buyer was overpaying 8, which is a third of the value. The Bretta proves according to Shmuel, who had the upper hand? The one who got hit is the one who has the upper hand. What do you mean? Can't that? If someone sold something worth 5 for 6, right? This is a 6 of the cash, that is. Nit'ana, who got frauded? Lokeach, the buyer. Yad lokeach alina, therefore he has the upper hand, which means which means if he wants, he can either say refund me completely, or temli mashenati, or he can say give me back the difference of the fraud, meaning pay me back the difference of how much I should have paid. Macharlo, however, if he sold him shaveh shesh b'hamesh, something worth 6 for 5, which means this is the 6 of the price. Minit ana mocher, who got defrauded? The seller. Yad mocher, therefore he has the upper hand, which means he's the boss. Ratsa omer lo temli mekahi. Either he could say, "Give me back my merchandise. I want a refund. I want to avoid the sale," or he could say, "Temli ma'ashinoti," or pay me the difference in that situation. So we see Shmuel, the Bretta over here is saying the Hasim halacha, whether it's a 6 of the cash or a 6 of the value. And the Bretta says whoever was the one that got defrauded is the one who can pick how he wants refunded.